We are at talk 5 of a series, and you know what that means, right? We have been climbing together for weeks, step after step, and now we're standing where the air is thinner and the view is wider and the horizon feels limitless. Talk 5 is supposed to be the summit. It's where the vista and majesty are revealed, right? Because we've been on a journey of truth and faith. And on this journey, I have been shown truth in ways that I couldn't have begun to imagine. And what I teach has shifted within that new clarity. But the thing is, not only could I not have imagined this truth, none of the words I could use to describe truth would come anywhere near to revealing it. I can stand here and say without a breath of hesitation, not even the most infinitesimally small bit of doubt, not any resemblance of reluctance, I can say that I know God is. I know that God is love. And I know that we are the most beautiful, fragile, magical extensions and embodiments of that God love. And I know that many of you here trust me, and therefore you have faith that I do know. In other words, you hear me say that I know, and because you trust me, you choose to hold that knowing for yourself. That's faith. Faith is trusting that a giant, super heavy metal machine called an airplane will in fact both fly right up in the air from one designated place to another, defying all the laws of gravity, but that it will travel to this designated destination while maintaining a specific speed which affords us a predictable time of departure and arrival. Therefore, you have faith that you can get on said airplane at point A, and that you will arrive at point B at preordained times and preordained dates, right? Faith is going to bed at night when the moon and stars are the only light that we can see. And I'm not counting the lights on all those machines that we make and we run electricity through it. I'm talking about the natural light. It's going to bed and resting your head on your pillow and drifting off into whatever adventures your dreams take you in, knowing that the sun will shine in the morning. Faith is buying the jar of honey, knowing without tasting it that the honey will be sweet. Faith is trusting in what you have not yet experienced fully. It's the willingness to lean toward the possibility of God. Yes, you have seen and heard tell of and have perhaps experienced countless sunny days, perfectly executed plane flights, and you've tasted wonderfully sweet honey. But have you experienced the one that happens tomorrow yet? No, but you have faith that it will be so. Some of you here not only know and trust me, but you have seen some evidence that what I'm teaching is true. So you've stepped a little further on that path toward knowing. You've come to believe. There have been moments of experience in life which speak to there being a perfect love, a divine mind behind and within it all. There's been some evidence for you supporting belief, evidence like the person who planned to take their usual route home, and I know we've all known someone like this. They planned to take their usual path, but suddenly they felt a strong nudge to take the long way or a different way entirely. Minutes later, they learn that there's been a horrible pileup right at the spot where they would have been. That person didn't hear a voice and they didn't see an angel. There was just an inner guidance that led them to safety. Evidence like the Ring doorbell footage I saw on social media, and I wonder, you guys have probably seen it as well. The video started with a man on a porch, and it's kind of twilight, you can tell, it's dimish, and he's out of breath, he's panting and kind of leaning. And you can hear the digital doorbell sound. How many of you are familiar with the Ring camera sounds? Okay, so you have the digital bing bing, and then there's a big long pause, and there's a standard response if you wait long enough, and Ring says, no one can come to the door right now, in that tone, and you hear that. And then a woman's voice interrupts, and she says, hello, can I help you? And this man says, I'm looking for, and he says a woman's name. And he's still trying to catch his breath, clearly. She said, yeah, what do you need? Why are you asking? And he's still trying to hold his breath, and he kind of leans forward and he holds his hand up to the camera to show her that he's got something in his hand, and he says, you dropped your wallet. Oh my gosh, I'll be right out, thank you, she says. So she opens up the door, and there's this beautiful exchange of thanks. This man, he was out jogging that night, and he found the wallet, which she had not even realized yet was missing. And then this guy jogged blocks and blocks out of his way to bring it back. With her, get this, her freshly cashed paycheck in it. It turned out that this guy was a police officer, and he refused to accept any payment for his kindness, stating, it's my job, even though he was clearly off duty in a tank top, all out of breath and sweaty. And it also turned out that she needed that money to pay rent. Had it gone missing, she would have been evicted. That is the evidence of the divine working through human hands. Consider this. You may never have seen the face, the body of the deer in the forest, but you've seen its hoof prints in the mud, the leaves that it's brushed against, those forest trails that are left behind. If you live in our particular area of Southern California, you've seen the flower beds that it has beheaded. God leaves traces like that. Signs that you've already experienced, whether you named them at the time or not. And so you believe. And like faith, it's a choice. It's a more committed choice, the kind of commitment which could make you stand up and shout about it and argue for it, to dig in your heels and refuse to be budged from your belief. But it is still a choice. And I told you when we began that I wanted us to get to this place of knowing. When you know, and I'm not saying no, when you know with a capital K-N-O-W, hyphen K-N-O-W, okay? It doesn't matter when you know. It doesn't matter what anyone says or what so-called evidence or argument they hold up to refute it. You know, in the face of even the most compelling argument, the truth. And I've said and I've done a whole lot through the last 4 weeks to prove a case for God, right? And I've worked to connect you to this place of knowing, but when I look into your eyes and you ask questions, I see yearning, and I see hope, and I see a want to know. And I can't tell you how many times your want to know has called to mind one of my, if not my favorite poems by Thich Nhat Hanh. It is, I whispered, God, speak to me. And the thunder rolled across the sky. I did not hear. So I yelled, God, speak to me. And a meadowlark sang. But I did not listen. I looked around and said, God, let me see you. And a star shone brightly, but I did not notice. And then I shouted, God, show me a miracle. And a life was born, but I did not know. So I cried out in despair, touch me, God, and let me know you're here. Whereupon God reached down and touched me, but I brushed the butterfly off and walked away alone. And it gets me every time. God is speaking to you, is standing before your eyes over and over and over, revealing miracle after miracle, reaching out, touching you all throughout your lives. And how often do we brush it all aside, not seeing its significance? Last night, as I sat down to write, I tried to search for moments that I could hold up as an example of these times when God is revealed. And nothing came to mind when I searched. For a frustratingly long time, I'm like, I know it's there. Why isn't it coming forward? Thinking didn't work. Remembering didn't work. And if you've been coming to the Sacred Now workshop, you will understand what I mean when I say that instead of continuing to rack my brain in thought or remembering in futility, I connected with the emotion of a miracle, the feeling of a whisper from God, the stillness of that moment where God is revealed, and I found where those memories lived. But I didn't connect this one until just last night. I didn't see the truth behind it. Now, I must have been 3 or 4 years old. I was very, very small, because I can still see the memory in scale, right? And you can tell how big things are around you. So maybe 3 or 4. My parents and I were at Disneyland. And I don't know if it's still open. Gina, you'll tell me. There was a submarine ride, and you would get on the submarine and it would go down. So we're on this ride and we're sitting side by side with a bunch of strangers on these long benches. And I'm looking at the display, which I imagine was really, really amazing, but I honestly can't remember that part. What I do remember is that I was sitting between my parents and I had one hand on each of their knees and I was kind of leaning in and looking. And as I kind of leaned forward to look more closely, I was spellbound for a little while until I heard a sniffle coming from my right. A decidedly feminine sniffle coming from the person who was attached to my dad's knee. And when I looked up, I saw a woman that I had never seen before. And she was looking down at me and smiling with tears running down her face. And I was mortified. I thought that I had done something wrong. I thought I had done something to make this lady cry. And that belief that I had done something wrong was cemented into my heart a few minutes later when we got off the ride. And I saw this woman crying openly as a man held her and he looked at me and smiled broadly. I remember that smile, and I remember very distinctly feeling like she was crying because of me. And until last night, the weight of that experience hadn't registered. I can't begin to know what her actual thoughts and emotions were in that moment, but now that I'm all grown up, and I have, we're not going to say how many years of experience, I have experience to lend some context to those bewildering emotions that I saw that day. And so I realize that although there were tears, there were also smiles. As a mother, I can look back on their expressions and I can see quite clearly that I brought something healing to her in that moment. Simply by being a small child touching them in innocence. I don't need to know the details of their story to see that truth. To that woman and her partner that day, I recognize that somehow I was the evidence of God that they needed. Being the evidence without even realizing it is a lot different than seeing the evidence. I'm not talking about mindfully and dutifully going about in the world with the intention of being a force for love in the world, although I would like us all to do that. I'm talking about unwittingly and unintentionally being used to do the work of divine love, completely unbeknownst to you. That is a movement toward knowing. But if you're not there yet, me throwing more words out probably isn't going to make much difference. So I'm going to ask my volunteers here to once again hand out some gifts to you today. Please take one of each item being offered. Now, I will give you a caveat. There is a variety of candies. One of each item is one piece of candy. You can have many more when we are done, but just one candy, one flower, one mirror. Do not do anything except hold them. Just hold them and wait. You can hold them lower if you want to. It's up to you, though. Daniel's going. I love that. I'm not going to continue to speak at you, hoping that I can find the perfect words to somehow flip that switch of knowing on. But I'm going to try to enable you to flip the switch yourself. And there should be plenty of mirrors to go around. I'm going to wait until everybody has got their stuff. I was worried for a minute that I wouldn't have enough. I thought I had more. I think we're going to have almost exactly the right number. I know. That never happens, does it? Except every day. All right. Looks like almost everyone is set. Is everybody holding one of each thing? And throw those out to the choir members up front. Don't throw. Oh, does Nancy need it in the back? Okay. Nancy needs a flower and a mirror in the back too. Yeah. Deal, grab it. Oh, Nancy just went that way. I'm sure she'll be right back though, because she looks inquisitive. I'm going to wait just a minute because this is important. Nancy's back and Dee's running. Literally. Make sure you have some for yourself too, Dee. Okay. Now, when Dee sits, you should all have in your hands a piece of candy. Okay? Don't unwrap it yet. Just hold it in your hand. Okay? Look at that. If I told you it was sweet, how many of you would believe me? That's faith. You are trusting me without having tasted it for yourself. Now go ahead and unwrap it. Take a small taste. Let that sweetness rest on your tongue. Notice the texture and the flavor. Let yourself really experience it. The moment you tasted this, belief became knowing. You could argue with me all day about what the sweetness of this candy would be before you tasted it. But now no one could convince you otherwise. This is the difference between having faith in God and knowing God. Once you have tasted, you can't untaste. Once you've known, you can't unknow. It becomes a part of you. Okay, we have all looked into mirrors thousands of times in our lives, but almost always through a filter of the mind. We've seen the face that we've learned to measure and compare and critique. Are we good to walk out, right? Are we ready to walk out the door and be acceptable? So I would like you first to open your mirror and look at yourself the way you normally would. Just inspect. Notice the thoughts that pop up about your expression and your features, your age, your health, anything at all. Okay? Don't judge the thoughts. Just notice how quickly they come. Okay, now I'd like you to gently set those thoughts aside. Not the mirror, the thoughts. Hold it up, but close your eyes and imagine that you've never seen yourself before. Imagine those moments, I know we've all seen them, where this person who's been blind for their whole lives, they get a corneal transplant or a retinal transplant, and suddenly they're seeing for the first time. That is you in this space. Imagine that this is your very first look at the unique being that God created as you. And when you have that, open your eyes and see yourself with those new eyes. Don't look for flaws. Don't look for signs of perfection. Look for the life. Look for the spark. The perfection is inherent. Now close your eyes again. And now imagine that you are not looking through the eyes of this body you are in. You are looking through God's eyes. Not the God who measures, but the God who knows. The God which made you from love, who called you very good, who called you daughter or son or child, the one who never doubted your worth. And when you open your eyes, seeing through the eyes of divine love, answer the question, what does God see right now? What does God see in that face in the mirror? What is the truth in that reflection? Keeping that same awareness. Now, I understand that this may be awkward for some people, so I'm going to adjust this exercise a little bit. Turn to someone near you to notice them. Please, still holding your mirror, you may either look at them through those same eyes directly, or you may, in your mind's eye, do so, because I know that extreme eye contact can freak some people out. Okay? Look at them with those divine eyes. You know nothing of this person. You only see the truth of them. No context, no stories, no past, no future. Only love as love. You don't know their story, but you know their source. When you are ready, silently or softly affirm to them, Namaste, the God in me recognizes the God in you. Now take a moment with the flower. Notice its colors, its fragrance. Notice all of the beautiful little details, the intricate design of each petal, the texture of the leaves and the stem. There's a deep truth here that we often lose sight of when we look at flowers. It is this: that flower in your hands has never existed before in all of time. It is the only flower exactly like this that will ever be. Many appear similar, but none will be identical. And this cannot be accidental. This beauty, this perfection that you hold, is God expressing as this bloom. The same presence that made this flower made you, made the person beside you, made the sky and the wind and the stars. Holding your flower, look around the room. Look at everything about the room that you see. Look out through the windows and notice that that same divine spark that is in that flower is in the people, is in the sky beyond the window, is in all of those plants. And believe it or not, it's in this very building. These walls, the piano, all of it. Nothing is left out, and nothing is less than holy. Silently or softly affirm, the God in me recognizes the God in all things. Today we have moved from faith to belief to knowing. You have tasted God's sweetness. You have seen God's reflection in yourself, and you have recognized beauty in all creation. And now nothing can make you unknow what you know. You know that the only thing that's real, the only thing that really, truly, actually matters is love. Divine love as God, divine love expressed as us, and all that is. Love multiplied through our every thought, deed, impulse, intention, through our very breath in a moment of connection. We know that God as love is in us, as us, and through everything. And so we live it, and so we share it, and so it is. Thank you.